Hello and welcome to part 2 of our HTML5 and CSS video journey. Last video we just went through the core basics of setting up a new document. In this video we're actually going to start creating our site. And we'll be looking at styling as we go through this. So I'm just going to delete what I've already added to my body because I don't need any of that at the moment. And I'm also going to delete my paragraph styling at the top here. So what I want to do first is I'm going to style my body of my site. So to do that, I type in the word body, which references to this tag here. I open my bracket. I'm going to add a space. And I'm going to want to make sure that every piece of text that's within my body is using the same font family. This is to keep consistency. Again, I can overwrite these font families or font choices by the individual values, such as the paragraph or header. I can still overwrite that. But by setting the font family as an overall style to begin with, it just removes that potential issue of having mixed fonts within my website, which can make it look a little bit out of place. So I'm just going to type in font family. And this is where it'll find a list of fonts that are on your machine or available to you. So if you have a particular font that you want, you would obviously need it on your machine, and you'd also want to potentially upload that font onto your server as well if you're using a bespoke font style. It's always good, though, where possible, to have font families that are consistent across machines, or you have backup fonts. So if we're looking here, and you've got this sort of Cambria, Hopefully Text, Liberation, Serif, etc., etc. These are all similar-ish fonts, and what happens is if it can't find the first font, it goes to the second. If it can't find the second, it goes to the third, and so on and so on, until eventually it just says, okay, I can't find any of these font families, I'm just going to give you a serif-style font. So by doing that, basically we're removing any potential issues we could have if we had just one font family. And it's just about making sure you've built in sort of redundancies or safety measures in case the end user doesn't have what is required. I'm also going to type in margin, and this will be the sort of border or edges of our body, and this is whether it's going to have any space to the on these edges or not. So whether it pushes up against the edges or has a border rim around it, essentially. I'm going to give it this 0 border, or 0 pixels essentially. So we could have 0, or we could type in 0px, which would represent pixels. Just because I want my body to push against the full width of my website. And I'll be using dividers to push things back in afterwards. So now we have my body styled. Everything that I add within here should now conform to the standards that I have set. So now we've done that, we're going to leave styling behind a little bit and return to this because we're going to need to start actually adding some content. So I'm going to just start off by adding a header. So I'm going to type in H1. And for the time being, I'm actually going to style this header inline. So what inline styling means is we actually can style our tags within the actual tag itself. Now, this is something you'd want to use very sparingly. Ideally, you want to control this via the CSS, but we're doing it this way for now, just so we can see what's happening and we don't get sort of overloaded with information in one go. So I'm just going to type in H1 style, keeping the tag open, equals, open quotation marks, text, align, center, semicolon, font, size, dot dot, and we're going to type in 4VW. So this is vertical width. This will mean that this font will scale to our site's vertical and width parameters. So instead of our text being a fixed scale, this will actually push it and scale it as we move and adjust our window. Now, this for value here, we could change to be different values, and that would affect the size that that text would initially start at and how much it'd scale by. So again, some of this will be a case of playing about with it and see what works for what you're intending to do. But we're just going through this for very beginner-friendly approach. I'm also going to add a margin bottom. So this is the sort of space at the bottom almost of my text, so how much it kind of butts up against the next thing. And I'm going to give this a value of -10 pixels. And then again, semicolon, color. And I'm just going to, for now, use the color picker because I haven't got ready access to a color chart on me. I'm just going to pick a kind of semi-dark grey for now. And again, I can always change this later if I want to. Close the quotation marks after a semicolon there, just again for good practice. Now I can close my tag. And by doing that, you'll notice it also creates my end tag here. So I've got all this is written within that first H1 tag. And what I do in between here is whatever I type here would be what shows up as the text. So if I was to type website tutorial, for example, that now will show up as my header. And because I've used my body to style my font choices, this is what is being applied. Now let's say I don't actually like that, and I actually just want to keep with a kind of Arial font. For now, again, this is not good practice. Like I said earlier, we should really ideally have multiple font families, but I'm just using this because I just want to make sure everything looks consistent throughout these videos. So this is being controlled by my font family and my body. And there we go. So that's my head at first part of information in there. I'm now going to add a paragraph below it, and again I'm going to use inline styling. I'm just going to again use text align equals center, again making sure we spell everything in the Americanized form. Actually, do I want to make the center? Yeah, I do. So I'm going to make the center for now, but I will be changing this because when we start adding in our div tags, our dividers, we'll be able to actually control all this in one go rather than having to control each thing individually. But for now, I'm just trying to get the content in there, and we'll start formatting it afterwards. I'm also going to type in color, and I'm just going to choose sort of richer, darker black color. And then I'm going to close that starting tag up, which then gives me my end tag if I'm using Dreamweaver. If you're using another text editing program, you would have to add this yourself. I'm just going to type in some spoof text. There we go. Oh, that'll do. There we go. So because we've used this margin bottom -10 here, it's pushed our text up. If I was to increase that to, let's say, -60, it decreases that space between our header and our paragraph. So that's the reason we're using the margin bottom on our header, is so we can control the distance between these two here, or whatever this is and whatever we have below it, essentially. So now we have our very 1980s, my first website sort of starting to build up kind of process. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more information. So some of this I will add off screen. but I will be just essentially using headers and paragraph content for now, and we'll look at how to add a video or image in the next part of the video. So for now, I'm just going to fill this website up with some spoof content, and like I said, I'll just be using headers and paragraphs for this, and we'll return once we've got some more information in there, and we'll start adding in some style, content and information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 3.